heavy.
Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. Thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, bugging like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that at. Where we do that at. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that at. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. And like I've been saying for some time now, welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fan. What's poppin', fam? Appreciate y'all being in this live, man. So late stream coming at you Monday night. How you guys doing? Hope you got your week off to a very positive start, man. Shout out to the fam, the great Saint Think Tank, everybody, man. Big ups to you guys. Appreciate y'all being in the live, man, as we get ready to talk a little black and gold this night. I'm not going to hold you guys very long. Just wanted to touch on a few topics of discussion tonight with the black and gold world as we're gearing up, man. This week, man, we got some stuff popping as it's getting fastly approaching about 4 days, I want to say, right, to the 26th when the veterans report to camp, and we're getting ever so close to starting the 2024-25 campaign off, man, as the Saints. 30 under Dennis Allen. It is now truth or die, basically what it is. But anyway, man, let's shout out to you guys. Appreciate y'all being in the live. Much love. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. And by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. Sports Coma is representing the Who Dat Nation, man. And of course, the Saints made some news today. They did sign another wide receiver to the fold. Here we go, as Neil Carpenter of the WhoDatDaily.com is dropping the scoop. Saints signed wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr. to the team. You know, this is a young guy with a lot of talent, has some decent speed as well. And the Saints just kind of adding some talent to go along with the wide receiver core, bringing these guys in here to try to compete. It's not really big news to talk about here, but this kid does have talent, and we're going to cover it in the show. So here we go. As we talk about it, Saints Vice President Mickey Loomis announced today that the club agreed to terms with wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr., who's 6'2", 200 pounds, was originally signed by the Jags as an undrafted free agent back in 2022 out of the University of Notre Dame, as reported by Adam Schefter. After spending his rookie campaign with the Jags practice squad, he attended camp with the team last year, and he showcased his talents in the UFL's Birmingham Stallion. He had 15 catches for 253 yards with 2 scores. And at Notre Dame, he played in 26 games with 13 starts. He had 54 catches for almost 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. In 21, he was particularly impressive, started 13 games, and earned a first-team all-field steal, all-independent honors with those 48 grabs for 888 yards with 7 scores. And he was signed to the Saints to add some depth right there. So this is a very interesting signing by the black and gold, man, as they add this kid, this young player, Kevin Austin Jr., to the team. And I was anticipating the Saints bringing in wide receivers, like bringing another veteran wide receiver in which they kind of had, and this is done in draft unofficial Saints depth chart as provided by our lads. It pretty much shows all of the wide receiver depth the Saints had. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Rashid Shaheed got that 1-year extension. A.T. Perry's there. Equimia St. Brown, Cedric Wilson Jr., Bub Means, who's the 5th-round draft pick this year, Mason Tipton, Stanley Morgan Jr., Jermaine Jackson, and now Kevin Austin Jr. So there you go, man. You can never have too many juniors. Saints have 3 of them in particular in their wide receiver room, and they're getting ready for signing a cheap wide receiver for depth purposes for the Saints, bringing him in. So there you go with some little information about that, fam. So shout out to Kevin Austin Jr. Man, welcome to the squad. All right, let's move on to the next article right here by John DeShazier. 5 players to watch at 2024 Saints training camp, which will be coming up July the 24th. The practice will be held on Wednesday, July the 24th. At UC Irvine. So there you go. And there you got a picture of Derek Carr right there. And this is 5 players who he believes are the guys that you need to watch out for this upcoming camp. So we'll start it off with the QB, of course. The player intrigue, at least five of these five players, at least five of these players to watch isn't about who will make the game day roster for the Saints. It's about monitoring their progress, comfort, usage, and possible slippage. It'll be an interesting stint in Irvine, California for these five and many others. Derek Carr is on the top of the list, has played to rave reviews during the offseason workouts as he's diligent, has to work to assimilate the offense being installed by Clint Kubiak. But the reality is that those impressive reps have come in shorts and helmets, underwear. Kubiak said, and the real work must be accomplished against more stringent opposition. Carr's final 5 games last season, over 1,100 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks, while completing 74% of his passes as the Saints won 5 of the 5 games were outstanding, won 4 of the 5. And Kubiak's offense will rely more on the running game and motion to try to help Carr remain on that arc and nest. And it's no secret that he'll have opportunities to get the ball down the field, no doubt about it. Derek Carr will definitely have that. But the big point is the Saints have to rely on the rushing attack. You know, that's the most talented room we have in terms of our offense is the runners, and we need to rely on running the football and let Carr play off the back of the running attack. And that's what I said last year. It would have gotten us some success. You've seen a small sample size serving of that happen on the back end when they talk about these 4 of the 5 games the Saints won with those 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns. Saints were running the ball and the play action was being used by them. Imagine what that would have looked like if they were doing the same thing over the entirety of the season last year. Would have been a lot different, right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Anyway, let's move on to the next player, Trevor Penning. The 6'7", 325-pound offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Penning has found his home at right tackle, ? That's the biggest question for the offensive line, which has several of them. Penning, who's the 21 first-round pick, couldn't find his footing at left tackle, and the switch this offseason was a chance for him to take advantage of a fresh start. And given that the former All-Pro right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk, is out for the season after being placed on the physical or reserve physical and under able to perform list, Penning's development is paramount. Since offensive and defensive lines do little more than shadow box during OTAs and minicamp, we won't get a good feel for Penning's progress until the padded practices and training camp. His attitude has been positive, and the coaches believe he's athletic enough to handle the duties. They need Penning to make them right. Indeed. And that's what the thing we talked about with Trevor Penning. When they were trying to put him at the left tackle position, I kept saying that was a mistake, but we ultimately known that was to protect Ryan Ramczyk. You couldn't move Ram to left tackle because he'd have been fully exposed how bad his injury was. Now that Ram is out of the way, Penning, I think big ups, and I've said this, I believe that he will thrive at the right tackle position. He has the tools. He just has to learn what to do. He has the physicality. He has the speed. He has the attitude. It's all a matter of teaching him how to do that. And pretty much John Benton, offensive line coach, said that this will be a offense that will run a lot. Clint Kubiak kind of hit it at that when he first arrived, and then kind of later on try to play it to the left through a little mystique in there by saying it'll be based on what the players want to do, which I know that's not true. The Saints need to run the football to win, and they need to run the ball off top and play off the play action for the quarterback, to be more of a secondary option in terms of working off that running attack. Saints need to run the ball, and we know that these guys have the ability physically to do it, but it's up to Benton, Andrew Janoku, and pretty much not Andrew Janoku, but Clint Kubiak and John Benton to get these guys on task. But he believes that he has the right complement of offensive linemen, especially with the young guys, to do that. Anyway, let's move on to the next player, Chase Young. At any given time, given what happened last season, the guy to watch this year on the defensive line will be Cam Jordan, and it very well could be, considering the franchise all-time leader in sacks, 117.5. It's coming off a 2-sack season, second fewest in his career, which was decimated by injury. By this year, it has to be defensive end Chase Young, the unrestricted free agent signing who had neck surgery during the offseason, wasn't on the field for any teamwork other than walkthroughs during the OTAs and minicamp. The Saints are hoping that Young can recapture the form that led him to being named Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2022 when he had 7.5 sacks, four forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, so a pass defense, 12 quarterback hits, 10 tackles for a loss. He seemed to be getting back to the last season. He had 7.5 sacks while splitting the season between the Commanders and the Niners. If he can be what the Saints believe he can, and the team can add that kind of ability to Carl Granderson and healthy Jordan, the Saints could be a formidable rotation. Chase Young's a big question mark. We talked about that. A very big question mark opposite of Carl Granderson. This could be the fastest, most talented tandem the Saints had since Cam was in his prime with Virginia Gillette. Or, I can't think of anybody. Maybe the 1 year that Cam and what's his name? I forgot the man name that moved on to the Bengals. I forgot his name like that, but it could be 1 year like that. But anyway, I think for multiple years, could be a Cam and Junior Gillette type situation. But Carl Granderson and Chase Young really are going to be explosive. Hopefully Chase Young can get on the right foot. He's playing on a 1 year prove it deal. He's trying to get more, trying to earn another contract, so he'll be motivated. Carl Granderson, who got his paper, is trying to step his game up to become, even better with his 8.5 sacks. But having those guys firing off the edges, and not only that, but both of these guys can play the run really well. They can also kind of box in the ends, which means that quarterbacks will have difficulties escaping around the edges. With Chase Young and Carl Granderson there, they bring some athletic ends there. And plus the rotation of Cam Jordan, Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey should keep these guys fresh. So we'll see how the Saints utilize them. So let's keep it moving. Go on to Marshawn Lattimore. And Laddie Daddy is back for the Saints after a little stuff with Dennis Allen. And basically Dennis Allen said that, Lattimore will be on. He's with the Saints for this upcoming year. So we'll see how that all shakes and goes. But this could be Marshawn Lattimore's last year with the Saints. This secondary that we love a lot could be the final year of watching these guys go. So hopefully everybody remains healthy. But this is going to be an interesting year for Lattimore for the black and gold. So Lattimore calls himself the best cornerback in the NFL. There are times when the 2017 NFL Rookie of the Year plays that way, but the 2 injury-riddled season during which he missed half of the 34 games, Lattimore needs to do more than talk the talk. He said he wants to be a Saint for life and to have a formidable defense. They need him to be at his best on the field for much more than half the game. So it's either, and we're talking about the here and now, we'll deal with whether Lattimore will be on the team next year, but right now that really doesn't matter. We need these guys healthy and competing at a high level. We have Marshawn, Paulson Debo, Alante Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Those guys are just particularly our cornerbacks led by Lattimore. It should be a good year for the secondary. All right. And then, of course, finally, the fifth of the 5 players mentioned is A.T. Perry, the wide receiver, the 6'5" wide receiver out of Wake Forest. The use of running back Elvin Kamara will garner much attention, as will the shifting role of Taysom Hill, who's still listed as a quarterback, but will get some reps at running back and fullback too. Still, New Orleans need receiver A.T. Perry to make a jump and improvement. He showed last season there is an abundance of raw talent. You can't teach size, and the determination he has shown to come down with the 50-50 balls is impressive. That's one of the best stats that are the best pieces of film that you've seen when you watched A.T. Perry when he played for Wake Forest, that he was a big wide receiver, which was a red zone weapon, and he was really good at, high pointing the ball. He is lanky, long, and he high points the ball well. But New Orleans needs a receiving complement to go along with Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and Perry could be the guy who clamps the opportunity. The flashes need to smooth into consistent production. Remember, guys struggle in the second year. This is AT's second year. It's a sophomore year. Although I do like Coach Williams, the wide receiver coach, it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact can Coach Williams have with A.T. Perry. That's the biggest question when you talk about the wide receivers, because we got quite a bunch of young wide receivers there. And some throwaways, no disrespectful, to be disrespectful to Kwame St. Brown. And, when they signed Cedric Wilson early on, A lot of people believe Cedric Wilson would be the veteran that take the third position opposite of Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. But A.T. Perry is the future of the wide receiver position. We know Cedric Wilson, I think he's on a 2-year cheap deal. And then, of course, you have Bud Means, a 5th-round pick that Saints brought in to add depth to a wide receiver. So they don't have an established veteran. The closest thing to that is Cedric Wilson in terms of, that open wide receiver spot. Mason Tipton, Stanley Morgan Jr., Jermaine Jackson, and even Kevin Austin Jr., who was added today, are all young wide receivers that are pretty much unproven. And even, we talk about Quimia St. Brown, who's a veteran, has been relatively a bust up to this point based on where he was drafted at and what his aspirations was. His brother, Amon St. Brown, is the truth, but Equimius is not the truth. And maybe this is the last stop for him to prove himself. Big physical wide receiver, no speed, but could be a red zone weapon. We'll see. But A.T. Perry is the guy that really needs to step up and use his size, and not only just size 6'5", whatever, but also has speed too. So A.T. Perry, man, is your opportunity, man. You got some pressure from Cedric Wilson, and the push on, I think Cedric Wilson is the biggest competition that he'll have. All right. So that's the top 5. A shout out to John DeShacer, man, who put this together to just kind of give our people an idea of people we need to be concerned about headed into the upcoming season, and guys who we need to keep an eye out on coming up in training camp. All right. So let's move on. All right. And this is an article right here by NOLA.com. They put this together. How suddenly cool Saints coach Dennis Allen is hoping to change himself and the Saints. This is why a writer from the NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune site, basically trying to drop game about Dennis Allen and a potential change of vibes or whatever. And this is what he had to say. I don't know if people are buying it, but y'all tell me what y'all think. Dennis Allen never would be confused for a game show host. The Saints coach with his salt and pepper goatee and trademark visor is a serious football coach through and through. I don't know to say all that. But here was Allen on Tuesday morning in June instructing players to come on down to the front of the room. They were going to play Family Feud with a Saints twist. The idea started off initially as Jeopardy, then it went to Family Feud because, he says, I thought that'd be easier for me to manipulate. 5 offensive players squared off against 5 defensive teammates as Allen pressed each unit on various defense franchise trivia. Who's the Saints' career leader in pick sixes? Who's their all-time sack leader? Top 5 answers on the board. By the end of the game, the offense emerged victorious. The results didn't sit well with the defense, but there were plenty of other opportunities to get revenge. This year, Allen has made it a priority to begin his team morning meetings with some competition. The day after playing Family Feud, the Saints had a water balloon toss. Other activities have included go-karts, a home run derby, Louisiana-themed spell contest, a 3-point shootout in the Pelicans facility, and even watching members of the equipment staff run through obstacle course set up by Saints indoor practice facility. Is this really the same Dennis Allen? You could tell guys in the room, they're like, DA is cool now. Who said that? When training camp begins in Irvine, California, Allen will look to build upon the camaraderie that he's spent so much of the last few months establishing with players in a season that's setting up to be crucial for his job security. Allen had told Times-Picayune determined that the Saints needed, quote, significant change, end quote. The change was highlighted by a new offensive staff, but the full extent of Allen's vision went deeper. If the Saints needed to change, Allen needed to change with them. That is true. The message players heard from years from the no-nonsense defensive-minded teacher had to be presented differently, no matter how much it takes them by surprise. You could tell guys in the room there like, DA is cool now. This is Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu is always a big up in Dennis Allen. He has no negative commentary for Dennis Allen at all. He always big ups Dennis Allen. Continuity was supposed to be the main selling point for Allen. Y'all remember, don't you? That was in 2022 when the former coach Sean Payton stepped down. The Saints wasted little time promoting Allen from defensive coordinator to the top role. Allen's familiarity with the Saints, 7 seasons as coordinator, plus another 5-year stint as the assistant early in his career, boosted his candidacy for the head coaching job. At Allen's introductory news conference, Gail Benson noted the coach's deep knowledge of the Saints culture because he's been a part of building the culture. Allen, who had turned the defense into an elite unit, said then the Saints had a great foundation at, and he wasn't taking over a broken job in the slightest. This is true. 3 years in, the Saints might not be broken, but the pieces hardly resembled the foundation he inherited. Initially, Allen retained all but 3 of the 21 assistance from Sean Payton. Like I said before, this is Dennis Allen's team. This is his team. This is his staff. He hired all his guys. So not including those within the team's strength and conditioning program, now only 7 of those holdovers are still with the Saints. The roster has undergone a similar upheaval. Only 18 players coached by Payton in this final year remain with the franchise. A roster churn and coaching departures are the norm for the NFL, and yet part of what has made the Allen era so different from the predecessors, how significant changes have been in an annual occurrences. After the coach's first year, he revamped his defensive staff, bringing in defensive coordinator Joe Woods to replace Ryan Nielsen and Chris Richard, and had a big say in signing quarterback Derek Carr. Then this year, Allen scrapped most of the offensive staff, outwent Carmichael, and came Clint Kubiak. Continuity is important, Allen said, but continuity is only part if you're continuing to get the results you're looking for. To have continuity and not have the results is insanity. The results don't lie. The Saints are 16-18 in Allen's 2-year tenure and have missed the playoffs in the last 3 years. So when Allen went to review what went wrong after the last one, he wasn't tempted by an offensive hot streak over the last 5 games that helped the Saints finish 9-8. Nor was he swayed by the history of a scheme that the Saints had deployed for almost 20 years and was used to winning its lone Super Bowl. To have continuity, he says, to have continuity and not have results is insanity. Also, to keep doing the same damn thing over and over again, trying to get the same results is insanity. So it also is insane not to have accountability. Is not attention to detail is also insanity. When Allen watched, he saw a unit that needed juice. Somewhere, somehow, whatever they were running and how they were running it had grown stale. Look, we were in the same offense for 17 years or whatever it was. I think every now and then you just got to change some things up to revigorate the unit. By hiring Kubiak, Allen very well could be entrusting the fate of his job with a coach he never worked with before. A coach's third season often is a make it or break it year. Just ask Allen the last time he was in this position when he was the coach of the then Raiders. Allen didn't even get a full season. The Raiders fired him after an 0-4 start. For Allen, Kubiak was a clear standout in a crowded field of candidates to replace Carmichael. Allen repeatedly has spoken this offense about how he feels Kubiak's scheme is one of the NFL's best. But beyond that, Allen hopes Kubiak's arrival creates an impact similar to what Greg Williams' hiring did for the Saints back in 2009. That season, he was just rising the system and Payton's staff. Allen remembers how Williams came in and as New Orleans defensive coordinator and changed the culture by pushing players to play tougher and more aggressive. He saw the unit take on a new attitude fueled by Williams' fiery demeanor. Remember, they took on the image of the coach. In terms of personality, Kubiak couldn't be more different from Williams. Kubiak, much like his father and former Super Bowl winner, Coach Gary Kubiak, would not be mistaken for a coach who constantly barks at his players on the field. But according to Allen, the two share a keen attention for detail, one that creates a standard of who we are and what we are, and this is how we're going to play. They simply know how to hold your players accountable. We've constantly said that. Over the last 2 years, I've said over and over and over again, the Saints have lacked under Dennis Allen in the first 2 years. They didn't hold their players accountable, not fully. They weren't paying attention to the details. They weren't studying the film properly. And if they were, they would have corrected a lot of issues we've seen players had. When games happened early on, and they were constant through 7, 8, 9 weeks of the season, was constant breakdowns and miscommunications between the quarterback and his wide receivers, the quarterback and his tight end, the quarterback and his running backs. Constant communication breakdowns. Guys wasn't on the same page. You don't practice week after week and go into live game action and have those many errors unless you're doing something wrong. And even Elvin Kamara said during practice, guys was false starting and coaches wasn't holding them accountable. They wouldn't even say anything. If Allen also feels there needs to be a new level of accountability for the Saints next season, and his comments over the last few months certainly have suggested that, then making a coordinated change is one way to make it happen. ESPN analyst Mike Tannenbaum, the former general manager of the Jets, said the staff shakeups like the one the Saints endured this offseason are a way to show there's accountability across the board. It becomes a very powerful message that he's going to hold everybody accountable. That's what Tannenbaum said, and I think Allen made the right decision. Not the easy one. Firing Carmichael was effectively a final step for Allen, to move on from Peyton era. When the season began September 8th, the Saints will have an entirely new offensive playbook for the first time in 6,573 days. At this introductory news conference in 2022, Allen said he was at peace with the idea he always be compared to Peyton, but as much as the Saints would rely on continuity to guide them, Allen made it clear he also wanted to carve his own path. He was a different coach from Peyton, one who brings his own spin on things. More than 2 years later, in a hallway just out the Saints locker room, Allen doesn't hesitate when asked whether he sees Kubiak hire as an example of that. Absolutely. It's not the same as it's been. He said, I want everybody in the building to feel that this year is different. So that's some of the stuff. I'm not going to read the rest of it, and still a lot of other stuff that he mentions in this article. Is a very long ass article, as you can see. And if you want to listen or rather read the rest of it, feel free to go to NOLA.com and look up the article by Matt Perez. I think the man's name is How Subtly Cool Saints coach Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is hoping to change himself and the Saints. So that is what it is. So what do you guys think about some of the stuff that we done read? A lot of people simply don't like Dennis Allen, but you got to like the decision of him changing the OC and much of the staff. You can say it was desperation, but the Saints needed a change. If you're not going to run that system, Sean Payton operated well, you might as well fire all those guys and move on. And he did that. This is the third and final year, and he also understands, man, that he has to bear fruit. They have to get this off the ground and get the Saints in the playoffs. And Dennis Allen believes he's done enough, perhaps, to do that with the additions, offensive, coach-wise, a couple of the moves defensively. A solid draft in their minds. Could this be enough to get the Saints back into the playoff outlook and save his job and perhaps keep things on the tracks? We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the final article I got for you. Actually, two more. This one's from The Sun. Did y'all hear this one? Dude, where's Derek Carr? Really stunned NFL fans after New Orleans Saints star Derek names best player I ever played with, right? Carr's played with multiple Pro Bowlers in his career, but he revealed a non-pro player who he thinks is the best player he's played with. And, of course, the four-time Pro Bowler Carr appeared on the Barstool Sports hit podcast, Pardon My Take, and shared his surprise opinion. And he basically just kind of revealed to everybody that during the appearance, Carr discussed Taysom Hill, who's a former BYU quarterback and played multiple positions on offense with the Saints. The 33-year-old has played alongside Hill for one season and described him as, quote, the best football player I've ever played with, end quote, and added, quote, he's the nicest person in the world, end quote. People were stunned at Carr's strong declaration on the versatile Hill. Derek Carr does not know ball, one commenter said. Oh my God, really, another said. Jack of all trades, master of none, no thanks, a third asked. Carr's statement concerning Hill doesn't hold water as he played with superior players along the likes of Pro Bowlers Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, among others. Still, Carr shared the Hill's multi-dimensional skills make him unique. Carr said he can do everything. He throws, he runs, he catches, fullback, quarterback, tight end, receiver slot, blocks, punts, personal protector, just because how stats work, I don't know how it worked, but the man's a Hall of Fame football player. Carr then brought up an instance that showed him that Hill could be a member of the NFL Hall of Fame in the future. Last year, our offensive coordinator was like, bro, when Taysom runs the football, he sees red. So I know you're out there on the edge, probably wide open. He won't see you, Carr continued. So we're playing in Carolina. I think it was a Monday Night Football. We're on the 5-yard line, and he runs a keeper right at me. I'm open in the end zone. I look at Taysom's face, and he's at Taysom's face. And for the nicest person in the world, I looked at him as the most violent, angry person. He just puts his head down and puts his head down between three dudes and pretty much trucked them all. I was like, dude, that was the most violent and impressive thing I ever seen. Hill was entering his 8th season with the Saints. During his career, he's recorded over about 2,300 passing yards, close to 2,200 rushing yards, 750 receiving yards, 400 return yards, 38 total touchdowns, and 16 career tackles. So that's what Derek Carr said about Taysom Hill, that he is. And of course, we know I don't think Derek Carr is just being nice. I don't think Derek Carr believes that Taysom Hill is the greatest player that he's ever played with. Like the commenter said, Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, those guys are Pro Bowl players that's really good. I can understand why you like Taysom Hill because Taysom does everything pretty much. Whatever you ask him to do. If you need him to be a running back, he does it. If you need him to be a quarterback, even though last year the Saints gave him opportunities to throw the ball, he really didn't throw it that much. He just pulled it down and ran with it. As a wide receiver, tight end, on special teams as a return man, but Taysom Hill is a football player. I wouldn't call him a Hall of Famer, but he's an impactful football player no matter where you place him, except at the quarterback position. Just going to be honest with you, I don't think Taysom Hill is a quarterback. Anyway, y'all put in the comment section and let me know how y'all feel about Derek Carr's comments. And then finally, former New Orleans Saints edge rusher hit with another injury lands on Detroit's PUP list. Ex-Saint player will begin training camp with injury designation. Who the hell you think that is, right? Shout out to Kyle T. Mosley at the Saints News Network. Detroit placed former Saint 2018 first-round pick Marcus the freaking Davenport on the physically unable to perform list. He's on the PUP list to start the training camp. According to Ian Rappaport, Davenport became a free agent after this offseason, leaving Minnesota to sign a one-year, $6.5 million deal with a $10.5 million max value with the Lions. Aaron Glenn's defense hoped to propel Detroit to the championship game, but as the 2023 season ended, the team needed more consistent pass rush. Last year, defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, who had 11.5 sacks, and former Saints linebacker Alex Anzalone was a team leader with 129 tackles. James Houston was injured for most of the season after an ankle injury. Against Seattle, the Jackson State product notched 8 sacks in 2022. Marcus Davenport is already in an auspicious position at the beginning of his tenure with Detroit. Injuries plagued the majority of his 5-year career in New Orleans. With the Vikings, he only had 4-game appearances with 3 starts while posting only 7 tackles and 2 sacks, 4 QB hits and 2 tackles. Davenport has 35 starts in 67 games, 149 tackles, 23.5 sacks, 27 tackles for loss, and 64 QB hits in his NFL career. Marcus Davenport is on the PUP list for the Detroit Lions. Can somebody spell B-U-S-T? It's official, man. What a wasted pick that was. Could have had Lamar Jackson with that pick. Well, anyway, let's do a quick recap, shall we, of the articles that we covered in this episode of the show. Saints signed wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr. to the team, and he'll roughly fall right in line with the rest of the wide receivers. As you can see, all of our wide receivers right there in our unofficial depth chart from A.T. Perry, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Wilson, Bub Means, Equimius St. Brown, Mason Tipton, Stanley Morgan Jr., Jermaine Jackson, and finally Kevin Austin Jr. Can he make some waves? And Saints training camp, 6'2", 200 pounds, has has some speed to his game, kind of slick too. We'll see, man. This pretty decent signing for the Saints. We'll see if he can shake something loose. We also covered John DeSacia's article, 5 players to watch for the 2024 New Orleans Saints training camp. We also covered a very interesting article about Dennis Allen changing up his game plan to kind of create a different, more positive environment amongst his team. We talked about Derek Carr, calling Taysom Hill the best player that he's ever played with. And of course, we covered Marcus freaking Davenport, man, starting the year off on the freaking PUP list. How about Davenport, man? That's a pick where you shouldn't. I say you again, you're supposed to have Lamar Jackson. That's the pick where you're supposed to have Lamar Jackson. Anyway, shout out to the family, man. I appreciate y'all for being in this episode of the Coma. I want y'all to do me a favor. Hit the damn like button, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed, man. We up in this thing, and I appreciate everybody for being up in this thing. For my family members tomorrow, we'll be popping in on Patreon tomorrow, man. We'll be popping in on our Patreon stuff tomorrow to make sure we have what we need having and talk about on tomorrow. We'll kind of talk more about the Saints training camp. We'll talk about everybody on the roster, go over who, impact players. We'll do all that tomorrow on our Patreon, especially if you want to help the channel out. you can feel free to join us either on patreon.com or simply become a member of our YouTube channel. The link is in the description section below. So with that being said, fam, I'm going to get out on that. I appreciate y'all for listening to me tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back on Patreon tomorrow for the rest of the family members. I'll see y'all later on in the week. Much love, and who that to you?
Yeah. Boogie like Vincent, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Vincent, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, fucking like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network. TheWhoThatDaily.com. That's right, TheWhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who That and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, TheWhoThatDaily.com is your site. TheWhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who That in all of us. That's right, the Pro Shop is the platform store where you can go and buy all the latest merch to support the platform. Available at the Pro Shops, we have dozens of hundreds of products available for you and your family. Unisex tees for men and women, hoodies and sweatshirts, tank tops, kids and baby items, long sleeve tees, mugs, pillows, wall art, bath bedding, face masks, phone cases, stickers, bags, fanny packs, socks, hats, and many other items. Please feel free to check out the Pro Shops. The link is in the description section below. And remember, it helps the platform continue to grow. Check out the Pro Shop.